I found this quote in this book. This book is called The Unexpected Universe by Loren Eiseley. One may begin with what we all remember from childhood, the emerald light in the wonderful city of Oz. Those who lived in the city wore spectacles that were locked on by night and day. Oz had so ordered it when the city was built. Now Oz, it was explained to the simple ones who came there, was a great wizard who could take on any form he wished. But, as one denizen of the city explained, who the real Oz is when he's in his own form, no living person can tell. What did you find?
Oz is a magician, and in his world, you have to wear certain spectacles that change the light. But no one really knows who he is. There's a fly buzzing frantically around my head.
It's because we're on Zoom.
Yeah. So you have to wear the spectacles when you're in Oz's world. And the spectacles change things, make things better, make things more magical. It sounds like a metaphor for choosing freedom from the world of form. What stood out for you?
It's funny because I don't know the Oz story very well.
Nor do
Because
I.
I always felt like, ooh, I don't know, I never liked The Wizard of Oz. Something about it that I didn't like. But what fascinated me in this quote, which I really randomly chose, just opening the book and seeing what wants to be read, but the fact that they wear glasses, it's like that's how we what we perceive changed according to what lens we look at the world. So the reality can take any form, but it's through the glasses that we wear that decides how we perceive things. So nothing just is. It's all subjective to who beholds it.
Yeah. There's something elusive and a bit frustrating about that for me. I go through most of my life with a certain pair of glasses on that I would describe as normal. That is, I wake up and I create tasks that need completing. And if I don't engage with those tasks with the right spirit, I've let myself down somehow. And it's the opposite of living freely, which is I don't care about time. I just allow myself to engage with certain things, tasks. And there are tasks which are fun, and there are tasks which aren't so much fun, where I feel like I have to do them or I'm going to get in trouble. And it's frustrating because I don't know how to flick the switch. I don't know how to put the glasses on or take them off, whichever side of the metaphor we're on. And when I don't know how to, and I'm sort of locked in the task completion spirit, it always feels like no matter how much I do, it's not enough. I feel a vague unease, like I'm going to get caught out. But actually, it's that I'm not in the present moment. And when I'm not in the present moment, I'm preoccupied with time and how much I have left and what will it mean and how will it end. And that's really sad and confusing. That's the best way I can describe that.
Mm.
So it's about freedom then, and the choice therein.
And that feeling you just described, like this time pressure and urgency, that's that's the opposite of the feeling of presence and freedom.
Mm.
And I also know it so well. It's then that creates my suffering. Right.
I know how to arrest it, but I don't use that skill very often. And then I start to wonder why. So I'm sort of also locked in identity. And the skill is to stand still, ideally with a view in front of me, and breathe slowly and continue to breathe slowly in and out. And then there's a warmth comes and a peace. And I start sighing. And then I all of a sudden feel incredibly lucky and grateful. It's the easiest thing in the world, but I don't do it.
Yes.
I prefer to be urgent and soldiering on.
But do you, or is that just the most familiar groove to ride?
Yeah, what that's maddening, isn't it? What if it has nothing to do with me? What if it's just a habit?
Mhm.
I think this leads on to the quote I found.
I think so too.
It's from Khalil Gibran, the prophet. I'm going to have to read it because I can't remember it off by heart. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? So I used the word identity just now, and it's like if I allow it, days can go by in a vague unease. Nothing's really wrong. I'm aware of that, but I'm not content. I'm concerned about the future. And there's a feeling which is difficult to grasp, difficult to bring into the center of being, there's a feeling of choicelessness, like I'm just going deeper and deeper down a dark hole with how I'm being. As though it's inevitable and I'll have no choice, and it's somewhat self-fulfilling. And it's just, I could sum that up, fit that feeling up with the word concern. Slightly tight in the face, preoccupied. And the identity bit is that I rebel from it by deliberately distracting myself with inane amusement. And I've done that for so long. I think it's just a habit. I've done that for so long in my life, and for so long being unaware of it, that moments of true freedom and peace and joy and gratitude, that lovely emanating light sense, is rare, right? So, and it has to be a conscious act. It doesn't come naturally. I have to stop, actually. It's not enough to slow down. I have to stop and breathe and take it all in, all sensation. So, Khalil Gibran talks about fragments of myself that I need to discard, as you would pieces of trash or unnecessary things that are no longer necessary.
The way I see it, when you the visual image that it conjures up for me is these the like shards of colored memory bits. They have shapes, and it's the shedding of meaning of anything, meaning everything, anything about who you truly are, because that's identity. When you think about it, what is it? It is the conclusion you draw of who you might be, um, deducted from all the decisions you've made so far,
Wow.
choices you've made so far. So if you discard that, something infinitely new emerges. If nothing that you ever did or chose says anything about you now, then
Like all the great volumes of evidence that support this identity, and which at the same time, like like a criminal record, um, limits you. But it seems to get worse. It's like the more evidence I accrue, the more hopeless I become. And holding these two things at the same time, knowing them, there's a feeling of being on the edge of a precipice. I could just go either way. But after long periods of sadness, confusion, of unease, if you like, comfortable unease, there's a sense that I'm hurtling towards my own destiny, not chosen, that I'll never be any different. It's, it's ludicrous. So what do I discard? Do I have to put all the evidence out on the table and confront it all my mistakes, at least the mistakes that have brought me to this point here?
Well,
This,
what
this
are mistakes? Mistakes? When you say mistakes, what do you mean?
mistakes are what I believe deep down have caused the unease, and it is situational. I know this is an illusion, but they exist in me in terms of how I unconsciously see myself. All the times I just threw it all in and took a different direction. All the times I didn't act responsibly. The times I didn't own my situation and power through. Um, the times I let people down. I suppose I could sum it up by saying the times when I was uh, the times when I threw it all in and ran away, hoping that reality would be better somewhere else. Always running away. And a few years ago, I realized quietly that it wasn't the situation that was causing the pain. It was it was the pair of glasses I was using to see the world. Running away from suffering. And when I look back, I feel sad about those decisions. So if there's anything to discard, I would have to, I don't know, perhaps with someone else's help, go through my life and put them all out, write them all down, and have them all out on the table in front of me. But I don't think scrutinizing them rationally would take me anywhere new. It would have to be a surrender to the person I was that made those decisions. And I'm aware that you might want to talk about the inevitability of those decisions, like they had to be made. And I think therein there's freedom. I've spoken to you a lot about the idea of what if I just go forth without any plan and just create with a free spirit and see what happens without trying to find evidence in advance that it is the right course. A little bit like writer's block. I get blocked when I attach some esoteric meaning to what I'm doing in advance of doing it, and then feel paralyzed by um, is that the confusion about whether it's right or wrong, where it's going to lead. But when I'm creating freely, that obviously doesn't exist. It's all just happening. It's all just unfolding. I'm aware I've made something very simple very complicated by by my words here. And I also notice, and now I want to let you speak. What I notice is even daring to use words like identity and meaning are traps within themselves because they're just so inadequate to sum up what it's actually like to live. I think they make things worse.
Struck me what you said was the idea of lining them all up and looking at them. That feels like the opposite of what the quote says.
Gibran's
Hmm?
Khalil Gibran's quote about the
Yes. Yeah, and how I, or at least what I took it to mean. Um, and that's the thing. It's what if, and you pointed to that already, but what if every seeming mistake you ever made was perfect, was actually the exact thing that was needed for you to be here now? And with that in mind, you can now let go of anything, any choice you made, anything that happened in the past, because it doesn't exist. The past, where is it? So it's not here. None of it is here. So it's an illusion that can be let go of now. Gratefully, thank you. And it's like starting from a blank page. I like to see, like, imagine you were born yesterday. There's an episode in the children's TV program Bluey that I love. I love that TV show. Um, it's an animation about a family of dogs. I found it profoundly poetic. And um, anyway, there's an episode in which they play a game in which the dad was born yesterday. So he doesn't know anything because he was born yesterday. So he just landed on Earth. And that means seeing everything with new eyes. Nothing is like now. Well, when we say a word, that word has a meaning relating to all other words in our universe. That's why when I say the word God, one person thinks, and another thinks, like words in itself are neutral, but the meaning and the connection to it, it's created by what information we deduct from it, which is also how we innocently create like limiting beliefs or like strong judgments about ourselves and others. They're usually created from misconceptions or this means that, so it means always that. So what if that illusion can be let go of. So what I chose yesterday no longer means anything about me now, because I'm free to choose afresh with the newest eyes. I'm free to look at each thing that appears before me as if it is the first thing I ever lay eyes upon, which changes everything, because then that whole network of what everything means in relation to each other, uh, it cracks open and creates completely new possibilities.
I have glimpsed that. The question is, the question I'm asking myself is, why don't you just live like that then? Because everything's so much easier and joyous, carefree. And it's a conscious decision because the default is not that. It's ever so slightly unconscious and ever so slightly urgent and fearful and uneasy. That's what I revert to. That's what I have always reverted to be more precise. And it asks that conscious gaps be placed between actions in the moment so that they are done consciously rather than unconsciously. When it's unconscious, it's as though I'm being moved between spaces and being asked to perform certain tasks that are supposed to make life better or at least bring it to a certain standard. And there's this weird meaning that's attached to all of that. Just watch when you leave the dishes to pile up for a day or so. Just watch what happens. And all of the meaning, the prohibitions and inhibitions that arrive unconsciously about what is right and wrong. The Tao Te Ching asks that question: what difference between right and wrong? What difference between good and bad? Being moved around and then arriving at the end of the day, and even a decision: when am I supposed to go to bed then? As though it has nothing to do with tiredness, but has something to do with um, what's right and proper, what's sensible, what's reasonable. I mean, it's madness to live like that. instead of just following what the body asks for or what my spirit asks for. Whenever I talk like this, I'm reminded of a series of conversations that exist on YouTube between Jiddu Krishnamurti and
David Byrne.
thank you, wasn't going to get his name, American physicist. And they're talking from very different points of view on the relationship between time and reality and thought. Isn't it remarkable how a single thought can completely derail your experience and arrives too fast to anticipate and is embedded into the experience without our conscious awareness of it, and then can sort of pollute the day, can pollute the week, pollute a whole life. And that thing being a thought which creates a feeling which is interpreted in some weird way into a meaning. 1 and 1 equals 6, right? And then 6 becomes the truth. And that being the default experience for an adult, it seems, in this time. I don't know how true that is, but it's definitely been true for me. Like two versions of reality. One is real, and the other one is a murky, an unclear, uneasy sense of being pushed around with no choice, with no hope, with little choice, with little hope, and fragmentary, nice things in the future to orient myself towards that would seem to mean something, would seem to add up to something that would satisfy these urges, would bring peace. Finally. Just going to read this again. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? Surely, in the context of this conversation, those fragments are meanings then. What these actions may result in and the resulting meaning, rather than just living in the spirit of it. Go for a walk, slow down, allow snatches of language to arrive, put them in my pocket, take them home and create something with them. I'm never happier than when I'm like that. I don't care what people will think. I don't care whether it'll ever be published or seen or read. It's all about the crafting, the weaving of meaning and language, and something deliciously out of reach. How is it with music?
I noticed that it's so challenging at times to enter because it's limited, and it's almost that I resist going in because I'll know that I won't want to come out. I am happiest when I'm in when I enter it without having to come out, other than when I'm done. And when I'm done means when it says it's done. I don't know, because the cocoon dissolves and I'll come out and something complete is in front of me, either to send off to the person I'm collaborating with, or it's that state in which there is only that, there's only that space, and there is no self. And that's also it. I realized that I am, well, happiest isn't even the word, because happy, what does that even mean? I've come to question it. But there's a way of being available which is blissful, and yet it can exist even in extreme discomfort. And that's when there is no self, there is no I, there is no urgency, should, because when you said being pushed by these unseen things, I see, well, I see them as shoulds, like what pushes is a should, and what stops where there's a wall, it's like there's a can't, may not, you mustn't, you should. Shoulds push, the can'ts stop. And there's like this invisible maze through which we seem to make our way through, guided by those things. And that's not a very blissful way of being, although I'm obviously very well acquainted with it also. And I wonder, as munchkins coming in. I noticed I can't speak it at the same time when there's little munchkins in there. So yeah, that's,
They can be here.
yeah, I don't know, looking for.
What do you wonder?
Mhm.
Have you lost your thread?
Yeah, completely. Because I was in that space. That's the thing. I like when I'm in it. There is no self. There is just that cocoon, but it's so fragile. Just now when the door opened and people came storming in and it's gone. And then I'm out. I'm like, oh, I don't even know
Yeah, okay.
what was going on.
Can
So
I say something about that?
yes, and I have to address one thing. I'm going to mute for a minute. Hold on.
You want to do that now? You spoke about occupying a rarefied space where you are engrossed in some form of magic. We can call it creation. And in that space, there is no self, no identity, and no time. And there's no meaning. It's all just happening. And it's instinctive and intuitive. Um, you're aware of where you are, but it's also intimate and spontaneous. And then the bubble can dissolve, or the cocoon can dissolve or burst. And then I'm in a different reality, which is for me quotidian, humdrum. Okay, that was fun. And normally the question is, well, what do I do now? And I get up and I occupy myself. But I'm not as conscious and intimate and spontaneous and self-aware as when I was in that cocoon. So I wonder how long one can occupy that space. Or, yeah, is it supposed to be rare?
No, I don't think it's supposed to be rare, but what I noticed about it is that it's not meant to be continuous. It's like ebb and flow. It's like when I'm in it, it's beautiful. I'm also wondering how present I am when I'm in that creative mode. I'm not present to the world outside me.
Not as Bloom.
It's
No, you're not.
because
I,
when I'm in it, it's like I'm in, and I'm not responsive to others, for example, unless I am creating with them. And it seems that because that it's finite, it says when it's done. It's like now I'm done. Now I can come out. I like it most when it's like that, when it's uninterrupted. And that's a luxury that especially having kids, it's like no, there are times and there are moments in which it will get disrupted prematurely. And also, it's not meant to last because that's the way it seems to work. And we can't be continuously in that flow state. I think it's meant to oscillate between different states. We are meant to oscillate between different states. And then also, when being completely absorbed in the world around you, that's another blissful state, gazing at a body of water or just being in the moment with what's here, being with a person in a conversation and being fully present to that. I don't know if you can hear him, but my cat agrees. I mean, but that nothing of it seems to be meant to last. No state of mind seems to be meant to last, which is good to know when you are in a pressure like lots of meowing. Okay. What he's saying is, yes, it's not meant to last because other things require attention and all of it. I think it's all these different frequencies and it's the peace we have around these different states, knowing that they are transient, they are not meant to last, knowing that they will inevitably change, all of them. It's that where freedom resides and suffering ends. Knowing that I can feel as if my heart is going through the meat grinder because of something that I made something mean and that is causing discomfort. And rather than resisting it, which is what I used to do, knowing that I can be curious about it. And knowing that as soon as I get curious about it, it starts to fade already. And yet then I don't want it to fade because I'm curious. So I'm like, okay, what is this pain? What does it feel like exactly? What does it look like? It becomes neutral because it stops meaning anything. And then it just dissolves, which is funny. And I keep forgetting this, so I still find myself in discomfort and resisting that feeling. But when I remember to be curious about it, it doesn't last very long, which it's the paradox because in that moment, I don't even mind it lasting long because I'm like, I want to know more about this. Not what it means, but what is this feeling?
Yeah, I want to feel more and more of it. I want to become better acquainted with it rather than get into a discussion with it about what it is and where it's come from. Mm.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, really being present with the experience of, oh, what's happening in my body? Does it have a visual representation that is in any way interesting? Yes. That's usually the answer. Yes. And then it passes, as seemingly does everything. And I wondered also that sense of being pushed by invisible forces, by shoulds and musts, and this is right and that is wrong. Is that a universal human condition, or is that something we've culturally been conditioned to, so that we are more obedient and follow, we buy shit that we don't need. We do jobs that we do not love, all that kind of.
For sure, that's a really important question. I was going to come to that. Well, I was minded to ask you about that too. When there is a time bound task that is being imposed, I think, by the outside world. Today, I have to complete a tax return. That's probably the epitome of those types of relationships with the system which I am undeniably a part of, which imposes um, its will upon me, upon my life, my time, um, only because I know what happens if I resist. And normally it, it's bad. It it costs money to not do these things, and the pressure sort of, it's like a blind monster. Um, Now I'm resistant to doing the tax return because it brings up feelings of frustration, confusion, because it relates to my situation, my financial situation, which for, I would say, any normal person living today who is not mega rich would understand. So there's a task that has to be done wherein I will be confronted by my financial reality. And that only have to do it in order to pass it on to another organization, a sort of one of these enormous blind golems that have been created, that just process information and impose their will upon me and my life, my time. That's all I have to do it for. So it feels like a worthless act. And so I've been resistant to it for 2 days now. I've been procrastinating about it because I don't want to do it. I want to feel free. And perversely, I will not, in my mind, feel free until it's done. Um, but so the spirit with which I've been engaging with this task in my mind these last 2 days has been resistant, frustrated, slightly fearful. Actually, though, there is just a simple choice to be made. I can be content and at peace performing that task. It will take a certain amount of time. Um, I have to understand too that, and this is an interesting one. What if I don't complete it today? What if something comes up that demands information from another source that where I have to wait? Do I then get frustrated? I'll relate to um, two projects I've been working on that have provided real joy and excitement and interest. One concerns how I project my business. It's been a creative act. It's been deep and enjoyable, and I found myself in flow. And the other concerns what I thought was the completion of my book, which is a more creative project, which has required, which has allowed me to be in flow a lot over the last few years. And on both of these projects, I've come up against an unexpected wall where I can't move it forward. And now they exist in this uneasy space behind me somewhere. Well, I don't really know what to do now. And I want to advance, but I don't know how, and I'm confused. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday. If I don't continually bring them in front of me, like the reality of them, and see what the next small step is, they grow in size and become, yeah, like metaphorical objects of confusion and frustration. I'm blocked in some way, and I'm frustrated. Again, because I'm living unconsciously, and I'm not just looking at them. So what will make this better? I've drifted there, I think, Bloom. Not quite sure where I am now. I I am curious. These conversations I love because I get to put words to um, frequencies or psychic energies that have that for the most part dictate my experience, the quality of my experience. And so I enjoy bringing them into putting them on the table and scrutinizing them. I don't think it's navel gazing. I'm just curious because the longer I live, um, the more scrutiny is required because I know that I'm creating my own suffering and I would rather not. I'd rather enjoy the day. But I don't think it's helpful. I think it's like investigating my navel and trying to pluck out pieces of fluff. It's a fruitless exercise that causes irritation, ultimately.
The thing about the tax return, which when I went to Indonesia, I have to do my quarterly VAT return. And I completely forgot. So I got fined and I still had to do it anyway. It's just like, okay. I resisted until, of course, the final day of the deadline. And this, I already know this, and yet I persistently resist no matter what. But um, when I couldn't procrastinate anymore and I just had to do it, I started doing it. I found that I could do it best was playing the same free jazz album over and over again on repeat. And I entered a flow state that lasted 3 hours. And when it was done, I knew it was done because I pressed send and it said it's done. Um, I came out of the cocoon and I realized that was just as blissful as recording a piece of music because there was
Indeed.
no self. I was completely absorbed by the task at hand, and it was beautiful. And the tax return in itself is neutral. It is the meaning I give to it and the indignation with which I navigate it. And I shouldn't have to do this
Uh,
trivial shit. uh, However, I was surprised this time by how much, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but the feeling
of
of,
easiness. E-
of that there was just that. There was just me and the tax return in this cocoon with really loud music. Somehow that seemed to work. Same album, no vocals, just loud. And yeah, I realized I wish I can remember that for the next time. Um, I'll probably resist again, though, knowing myself. As for the creative process and what step to take next, when it feels blocked, it's usually because you are looking too far ahead and
Yeah.
something in between, which is tiny, needs
Yes.
to happen fast.
And
Okay.
sometimes that thing is simply put the project in front of you, look at it, just look at it. Yeah, as simple as that. And I mean, this seems to happen every single time. The answer just presents itself. Oh, okay, I just need to do that then. Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask it literally what needs to happen next. If you slow down enough, you'll hear the answer. I find writing that also helps. It's like having a conversation with the selfless self. Something always responds. It's like writing a puzzle poem. You don't have to think it up. So it works the same way. If I know which is the next note in my melody because I listen for it and I know what is the next word, then I can also ask it what is the next step I need to take, which is a fun game to play.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on your quote about Oz and spectacles and emerald magic and where we started.
What I heard was that there's a great illusion. Oz is like an illusion no one knows. It can take any form, and no one knows what its true form is. It tries to control how it is perceived. So, what is Oz? Is Oz reality? Is Oz ego? Is Oz ourselves? What is Oz? Something that is an illusion, that's for sure. It's formless, and no one knows what it truly looks like. So I think Oz is self, maybe, but whether that's ego self or true self, maybe just self as a whole. And we are also the denizens of the
Oz.
city that are forced to wear the spectacles. Now that sounds more like ego to me because otherwise the spectacles would not be forced.
Well, it's also an adornment. I can just take them off.
Mhm.
They're not built in. It's not a part of the optical system. The question I'm interested in is whether now, let me get this right.
Right, I'll let my feeler now do it. It demands it.
If I'm unconsciously wearing the spectacles, is that a good or a bad thing? Is it preferred or not? Or is it just a part of reality that's to be accepted? As long as I remember to take them off from time to time. I know it sounds absurd. The question sounds absurd, given what we've said, but it does linger. I judge myself when I realize I've been living unconsciously. I judge myself negatively and then end up in a wrestling match with myself, which doesn't go anywhere either.
Yeah, and I know we spoke about this before. I'm wondering if it's the beating up about it. Because I don't think it's good or bad or uh, any of those things to look at the world through spectacles, because that's what we do as humans. It's the cosmic comedy illusion that we are separate and informed, and that what we see is reality. That's what we grow up to believe. And as soon as we become aware of the fact that we are wearing these glasses, that nothing just is as we think it is, that reality is not fixed and singular, then we can always return to that awareness, knowing that we will forget, knowing that that's how it is. That I think that unless we spend our life meditating on a mountain, secluded from everything, and even then, can we stay in that awareness at all times? Probably not even then. Because if that was the game, to stay in that awareness all the time, and it's bad if we don't, then what's the whole point of having a human experience? It's the remembering that it is so, and forgiving immediately for having forgotten. And that's where freedom resides and suffering ends.
Yeah, and it's tempting to apply a good or bad quality to this idea of freedom as well. Like in some way, freedom better. Because in freedom, that I'm not creating suffering. And but it's a choice. Do you remember in Viktor Frankl's book where he is suffering tremendously physically, and then he sees a little bird and he's filled with rapture, and he takes the image of the bird and carries it with him thereafter. And if you like, it's sort of what saves him. So I can be free and suffering, but the suffering is not of my own creation, at least. Krishnamurti talks about this in this beautiful way. He says that thought is the enemy because thought is time, and every thought creates a barrier between one thing and another that demands comparison, justification, decision. And in the absence of thought, the barrier exists and everything is one. There's no time. I'd love to understand what David Bohm used to think about it, because I seem to understand Krishnamurti's language more than that of a physicist. Perhaps has something to do with what is observed and how it shifts.
Perhaps we can contemplate that in our next meeting.
Yeah, perhaps we can watch one of those videos and bring that.
I'd like that.
Thank you for today.
And you?
I'll see you on the next one.
Yes, I will attend to munchkins now. I'll press stop.